From music to Mortician, my journey, quite interesting. It started at a bus stop around 8 years old. I saw the garbage truck pulling off. I know this has nothing to do with music and Mortician, but we'll get there. I'm Nathan, musician, Mortician. I've spent 13 years in the funeral profession. My songs are inspired by my works. Be sure to subscribe and click the bell to be notified when I release content like this. I wanted to be this garbage man because you know the lever. If you're a 90s kid, they got to stand on the back of the bumper. These garbage men run to the garbage cans themselves, run them to the back of the garbage truck, pull the lever, and it went, I thought it was cool. I ran home and said, Mom, I want to be a garbage man. My mom has a beautiful way of saying things so nicely and delicately, never really talking poorly of anyone. As a child, I never recall that. She said, Nathan, I believe that there's something else out there for you. And pretty soon after, I saw a Lance Burton and David Copperfield special on ABC, and then I went and saw them in person. I wanted to be a magician because I wanted to captivate audiences worldwide. I loved this idea that you could bring joy to people who might otherwise be not joyful because life is pretty tough. So I wanted to be a magician. I would study close-up magic. I would study sleight of hand magic, card magic, coin magic, floating magic. I would watch these VHS tapes over and over. My late grandmother, God bless her soul, she would take her beautiful figure skating videos that she would record on VHS tape over the weekends, and she would tape over them Lance Burton specials and say, here, Nathan, I recorded this for you. And I would rewind and rewatch and rewatch and rewatch. So I was cutting my teeth in the magician world. But I grew up in a tumultuous environment. The tumultuous environment that I grew up in, it was something that I didn't know how to speak to. I was a child. I was young. I would turn to my Mead spiral notebook. Remember Mead, 70 pages, and I would write. I would write what was then, I believe, poetry, but poetry that then turned into song. And if you rewind all the way back to when I wanted to be a garbage man, I actually got in trouble in music class. Miss Harris was like, you're going to sing in front of the class as a punishment. Well, I liked to sing, and it wasn't a punishment. The same feeling that I had gotten from realizing that there is beauty in captivating audiences with magic was the same feeling I got with captivating an audience with my voice. It was an old hymn. So you bring that feeling back to the 15-year-old me exposed to trauma and sadness and heaviness and grief. I was taking these poems and then adding melodies to them. So I began to write. So it went from garbage man to magician to here we are as a musician. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm now going to captivate audiences worldwide with my song and my story. So I began to record demos, and I began to really cut my teeth into what does it mean to be an artist. I studied. This is at the beginning of the internet and dial-up, and I would learn every record label's artists. Every artist, I would know which record label they were on, whether it was Maverick Records or Goatee Records, or I knew the ins and outs of the independents and the majors, and I started to study in the books of the CDs, if you remember the CDs with those books. I love to read the not only song lyrics, but who wrote the songs, who played the instrumentation, who was the producer, who mixed and mastered. I wanted to know it all. And I met some friends in 2002. I was in my senior year, and they had come to play a show in Owensboro, Kentucky. Shortly thereafter, I graduated high school. Actually, 2 days after high school, I went and flew to North Carolina and hopped on their Renegade bus, and the rest is history. No, it is not history. I went all over the country with a bunch of kids. We were, and I paid attention, and I wanted to learn everything. I began to learn road managerial duties, not even titled the road manager, but how to fix and solve problems and how to get the merch here and there. And I believe that that started this spark of, the artistry aspect of music is great. There's a whole business side, a grind, if you will. And that sparked in me another love. The same band were recording another album, and they had these songs that they were demoing that they didn't want to have on their record. They weren't bad songs. They just were kind of throwaway songs. I liked them. I changed lyrics. We put out the first project in 2004 called the Say Something EP. You can't get it anywhere, really, except you can get it here. Those are very limited. 2004 released Say Something EP. It had songs like Circles and Hard Nights, and I listen back to those now and I'm like, wow, they're not actually that bad. Obviously they're dated in the sense of sound, but that was hearing myself. That was the cherry on top. In 2005, I released a project called Leaving Durali, nominated for Independent Release of the Year next to Hanson and Taylor Swift. I didn't win, but being nominated made me realize that I have it. I have what it takes. And that was the beginning for me to simply say there will be nothing else for me. Nothing. Or would there? 2007, I moved to Nashville, Tennessee, and I worked at Starbucks. And Starbucks, working there, it funded my entire musical journey. I was going to release this record. I spent every dime on it that I had made. The beauty that is Jody and Sarah, who took me under their wing and let me live in their home at a very discounted, if not free, they gave to me. There are people in this world that offer a leg up, legs up, if you will. They are that for me. They took me in, they believed in me, and to this day still cheer me on from afar, but they let me stay there, and that is what afforded me the opportunity to give funds, everything that I made, to this project, which is a gentleman's closure. The first record, the record that was featured in Starbucks Worldwide, the song Closure on the Starbucks playlist, and that started to catapult things for me. Things were rolling at a more rapid rate. I'd play a show, 300, 500 people would show up. This is at the very, very beginning of social media. There was Facebook, but Facebook had just started to say, hey, we'll let you have a Facebook account outside of just having a college email address. I wasn't in school. I did do one semester at UK. Didn't count whatsoever. I did eat off of my little brother's meal plan, though, for a very long time. In 2010, I'd met with Warner Brothers Records, and things were going great, but they weren't, because I wasn't making money. I was traveling. I was all over the place. In a sense, it was who's making this decision, who's making that decision. I didn't know what area and angle to take and which direction to go. So I went home for my birthday, April 3rd. My birthday is April the 5th. And I remember my first ever funeral home experience outside of when I was 10. The first one that really inspired me, if you can be inspired at 12, was at my grandfather's visitation. There was a man off to the side. The family of mine were looking to him with such comfort and such confidence. They went to this man for everything. And I recall my 12-year-old mind acknowledging that. So I followed this man around, asked all kinds of questions, and he was very patient with me. I don't know his name, but I know the funeral home. And we walked to this room, and the room had these old aluminum blinds covering this window. And he was going in there, and he said, "You can't come back here." I said, "Why?" He said, "There's deceased loved ones back there." Like, that was the embalming room, now that I know. And I remember that feeling of, ooh, I want to know what's behind the door. And so if you fast forward to 2010, April the 3rd, April the 4th, April the 5th, I had met the family who gave me the opportunity. They gave me a tour of the funeral home. I was hooked. I was absolutely hooked. So I was living in North Carolina at the time, but no more, because I had my friend Jeremy, DHL, shipped all of my stuff back in these massive boxes, and it was just throw it all in there. I don't care. And I started working at the funeral home. And that started the journey of being a mortician. But it didn't, because I wasn't a mortician. I actually grieved for nearly 2 years, because it's a ministry. It is a 24-hour-a-day service. And I didn't realize it, because I'd lived this life of selfish. Respectfully speaking, we are all selfish. But more so, I feel we can be in the sense of the music world, like, what can you do for me? What can you do for me? But this is, what can I do for you in the funeral world? And I thought I was a failure in the music world because I was doing funeral stuff, if you will. It took about 2 years. And throughout that time, I was dabbling within the music, but I wasn't doing full-time travel. That is how I define being a successful musician. But success, robbing Peter to pay Paul, making no money, is that success? I don't know. How do you balance it? Let me know in the comments below. And if you've gotten this far, thank you. Be sure to subscribe and click the bell to be notified when I release new content. We're talking right now about music and Mortician, my journey, and how we have gotten to this point. you have to become an apprentice to even become a funeral director or embalmer in the state of Kentucky. And I signed up for an apprenticeship pretty quickly, and I learned everything that I possibly could. I spent every day on call that I could. I wanted to immerse myself into the funeral profession because I obsess over being the best at something. And I realized shortly after that 2-year grieving period that I really love it, and I'm really good at it, and I love people, and I love connecting with them, and it has afforded me along the way this opportunity to do so in a profound, authentic manner, because whether you have much or little, I don't care. And I wanted to create experiences for families, and I started to obsess over that because I didn't have this mindset and these eyes for we've always done it this way, or I didn't grow up in it. I had this consumer mindset and vision of things. I saw what I felt people requested, not what it's always been done or offered. I started my apprenticeship. I continued to write and record because of trauma that was really surfacing. I got licensed as a funeral director and embalmer in 2015, started to acquire funeral homes in 2016 as well, and grew this beautiful company, and still released cover songs and original songs and fed that musical beast, but I needed and I wanted more, because the profession, although beautiful and so fulfilling, the mental health crisis that I was personally experiencing, I needed help. I needed help. And in February of 2022, someone posted a video for me on my behalf. It was a social media manager of the funeral homes and also helped with my music. And again, I was still feeding the beast, just not a ton. I had however many followers, 30 followers on TikTok, and a video goes viral in February of 2022. And it started to snowball. All of this amazing yet overwhelming, very overwhelming stuff started to happen. It went just poof, 100,000, poof, 200, 300, 400. And here we are at over 650,000 followers on TikTok. But because of all the momentum at TikTok, and you're running the company and doing all you can on the funeral home side and taking care of families and your family, and then all this noise that happens and people finding your music of old, and even the stuff that you kind of previously were still feeding that beast, because if I don't create, I don't feel alive. If I am not creating, I don't feel as if I'm even really living. And you had this moment in 2023, everything is really picking up on social media and the music and TV shows and everything that is possible. Brand deals, brand opportunities. This person wants to sign this interview, this podcast, this. It was so over the top. And then not to mention the personal challenges that were going on, because life continues, right? I picked my poison because I believe, as Stephen Pressfield has this book called The War of Art, there's a thing in us, like when you're born, I always think of heartburn, but it's in your being that if you are not doing it, because we're called to do a thing, and we can do other things, like you can be an administrative assistant but love to knit, and on your every downtime that you have, you're knitting and you're selling your pieces because you love it. It just provides you so much joy. You can still be the administrative assistant and be incredible at it, because that funds your life and pays your bills and does all the things that you need to do to survive and thrive. If you're not knitting, then you're not living. It's the same for me with writing and creating and performing and putting out content that I believe in. If I'm not doing that, then I don't feel like I'm living. And that is why I feel I'm put here, is to give of myself in that regard. And so I made the decision in 2023. I sold the company and we dove in head first. And since then, because of my works as a funeral professional and what it has afforded me, how it's able to make me realize the value of people, the value of life, the value of showing up for others, and respectfully realizing that I need people to show up for me. And all the trauma and sadness that I've experienced along the way, being able to now ask for help and assistance, not only through therapy, but people, and saying, I need help. I can't do this on my own. It's helped me realize the importance of community. It's helped me realize the value of authenticity and appreciation for life and not giving up when you don't want to continue, when you don't feel that you have even just this much left in you. That's what the funeral profession's offered me. And as my circle's gotten smaller because of going to 100% music, because you must protect yourself and your circle, the creativity has been boundless, endless. I have been able to write and record songs from my experiences in the funeral profession because of grieving, because of being lonely and sad and angry and sitting with families feeling similar feelings. I don't know of any other thing than suffering and how it's able to offer us a beautiful perspective, because through suffering there is victory. And as a funeral professional, even as a person outside of that, there's been so much personal suffering, and then I've been exposed to a lot of it as well. And I'm able to write these authentic songs, which had since been picked up at radio, charted at radio nationwide, number 15, and charted at Billboard charts. Like when you would open the Rolling Stone magazine and you're seeing the charts, I remember I would flip directly to the charts and see which artists and bands were on. And I'm one of them now. Me? Me? Nathan from Kentucky? I just showed up. I started showing up. The journey has been tough. Here I am. I just am celebrating my most successful single to date last time. Over 1.5 million streams on Spotify alone. I mean, going from just a few thousand monthly listeners on Spotify, because apparently that really matters. Woo. I say that jokingly because like everyone measures with numbers, and I wish there was another way to measure, because I wish people could feel the fire in my heart. That if I pay attention to that, and that is a measurement, and I should focus on it more. That is success to me. To go to 50, however many thousand monthly listeners on Spotify now, all of those that are meeting me on social media or at the podcast, the You'll Die Trying podcast, or here, thank you for being here. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to click the bell to be notified. I believe in just showing up and continuing to put it out there, put it out there, put it out there. I'll say this. I follow Gary V. Now, I've been following him for a while, and he posts this video. He's at a women's conference, I believe, and he says, I'm telling you right now, you need to post 3 times a day on TikTok. Every single one of you need to do it. It doesn't matter what your niche is, do it. But over 80% of you are going to leave this and not do it. And that's on you. And I was like, okay. So we started doing that. And because we were intentional in doing that, it went nuts. We just started showing up. And we stopped paying attention to the numbers. And I would record and write songs that I believed in, and I stopped paying attention to the streams. But magically, the irony of it is that that's what's connecting the most, is the ones that are genuine. And so this video is my journey to get where I am. From music to mortician to musician mortician. It's amazing how man plans and God smiles. It's really true. And I believe in my heart of hearts, if you take the leap, if you believe it with everything you have, and you just keep going, everything kind of just starts firing. There's victory in suffering. Beautiful funeral ceremony, memorial ceremony without a beautiful song. A song that takes you back to a moment with that someone that you love, or a song that you can't listen to without thinking of. And you can't have a beautiful song without having experienced tragedy. Let me know in the comments below your favorite beautiful song. And that is my journey as it continues on, whether I go to musician, mortician, magician, who knows? I love where I am, and I love that you've met me here. Be sure to subscribe, be sure to follow, be sure to click the bell to be notified, and we'll see you at the next video. What's your story?